This is On the Sidelines with Box 13.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the On the Sidelines podcast. I'm your host, Ethan McReynolds, here as always with my partner in crime, D-Jack, Dante Jackson, and our special guest for today. Welcome back, Curtis Crabtree, Fox 13 Sports digital reporter. Curtis, thanks for dropping back in here.
No problem, guys. How's it going?
Doing well. We've got a packed show, as we always do. The Mariners are back on the track after a tough week, so we're going to dive into them. I've got a couple of players that I wanted to point out, give some love. We're talking Seahawks. The schedule was released right after our last episode. We're going to dive into the schedule and how we think the Seahawks are going to do given the schedule that was released last week. Also, the 49ers making some moves that might hamper them financially. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to get a little update on the Kraken head coach search from our Kraken insider, I guess, with Curtis Crabtree, yes. Who knows everything there is to know about the Kraken. We've got another top 5 dead or alive segment that we're going to get Curtis involved in. And then we got the Storm open up their season, some what's trending with Caitlin Clark, the foul heard around the world. We're going to be talking about that. And then also the NBA playoffs advancing on. But we go back to the Mariners.
Yes.
The week that was not last week, that abysmal 1-5 homestand. They followed up with 4 straight wins, sweeping the San Diego Padres. That on this 10-game road trip, you look at that series. You know, I know you look forward a little bit with the Astros, the 4 games in Houston, but that the Padres were playing some really good baseball, and the Mariners just absolutely crushed them. Curtis, what did you see from the Mariners?
Pitching, like they've won 5 of 6 games, and they've held teams to 1 run in each of those 5 wins. I mean, it's a pretty good recipe for winning baseball games. So, pitching has come along. Good start from Logan Evans, Emerson Hancock last time through the rotation. You're getting closer to seeing George Kirby get back into the rotation as well. They're having to do a spot start situation today in Chicago if that game ever gets off the ground. But just a good run through the rotation, keeping things light for the bullpen. They've been able to continue to shine, and it was good to see them bounce back from the valley that they had. Just like you saw in the first week, 10 days of the season, they dug themselves out of that. Next time they hit a hiccup, they've been able to figure that out and course correct a bit as well.
And that's what I've been impressed with is the resilience of this team. They keep coming back. They answer the call. As you can see, I'm all in. I got my Mariners gear on today, Ethan. Now, one name that Curtis didn't mention, Bryan Woo. Bryan Woo is an absolute star. He's picked up the pace, and he's picked up the leftovers left by Logan Gilbert and also George Kirby. He's taken his staff by the reins and ran with it. Bryan Woo is in the running for a Cy Young award right now, and he's been great.
Well, and that was actually one of the 2 players that I wanted to highlight. I mean, Bryan Woo should, if things hold, he should be in the All-Star game come July. I mean, 18th in ERA at 2.65. He's 4th in the entire league in WHIP, below 1 at .87. Only 8 walks. That's tied for the 3rd least among qualified starters. 7 quality starts. That's tied for 3rd. He's gone 6 innings in all 9 of his starts. 7 of those obviously being quality starts. I mean, where would this team be without Bryan Woo? You've got Bryce Miller regressing, and now he's dealing with some injuries. George Kirby hasn't thrown an inning this year for the big league team. Logan Gilbert, 4 or 5 starts, and he's been on the shelf. I mean, where would this team be without Bryan Woo, Curtis?
Well, he bailed them out in the Yankees series, too, to give them the one when they had on the last homestand.
Yes. Against their ace, too.
Yeah, absolutely shoving it. They're right back against another, top flight pitcher in the league. And he's become one of those guys. I mean, I heard really positive, hopeful comments about what they thought Bryan Woo could be several years ago before he even got up to the league because of the fastball, the way it rides, the way it gets on guys. And they were really excited about what he might be able to bring to the table. And this was when he was still coming back from his elbow surgery and all of that sort of thing. But now that he's here, you see all of that starting to come together, what this looks like. He's got the secondary pitches to match. He pounds his zone like George Kirby does. But seems to find a way to miss bats, maybe a touch more than George does in the little down, swoons that he has in his stuff from start to start occasionally. He's been exceptional. He's been really, really good. And again, he's their quote unquote number 5 starter running the year. He's become more than that, obviously, now with Bryce Miller's struggles and no Logan, no George, and all that sort of thing. But he's been, as good as any pitcher in the American League so far this season.
He's definitely, and the thing I love about him is his composure. He's so calm. He doesn't walk people, And he's going deep into the games. He's going 6 or 7, so that saves the bullpen. So you can count on that. When you know Bryan Woo is on the mound, he's going deep, and you're not scoring a lot of runs against him. So he's hard to get frazzled. I mean, I love his demeanor on the mound. Bryan Woo is an absolute star this year, and the Mariners always seem to find one. They had 2 high-quality starters go down, and Bryan Woo just picks it up and runs with it. I love Bryan Woo right now.
Well, and the Mariners have the best record in baseball since April 9th. They sit here today when we're recording Tuesday morning with a 2.5-game lead in the division here in late May. I mean, after that abysmal start, those tough 2 weeks,
Right.
I mean, the world was ending.
I was on that roller coaster. Now look at me. I got the gear on.
And the most impressive part, I think, this last 4-game stretch at least, I mean, the best record in baseball since April 9th. A lot of that was because of Jorge Polanco's start to the year.
Yes.
You know, he was in MVP conversation with numbers up with Aaron Judge and what he's doing. I mean, Jorge Polanco's dropped back down to earth, and they've won these last 4 games essentially without his bat contributing in the lineup. It's come from other places. Julio Rodriguez is starting to find his form. Cal Raleigh has just been absolutely incredible, one of the best players in baseball, the best catcher in baseball.
And it's not close.
No.
Let's go ahead and say that right now. It is not even close. All of those catchers over the years that you thought was better than Cal, you knew he was in the running. Cal Raleigh is the hands-down best catcher in Major League, and he's also one of the best players, period. To handle his staff the way he has with the injuries and to hit those bombs, Cal Raleigh, I can't say much more about him. He's a superstar, and you know I love the stars.
Well, and Cal Raleigh was the other player that I wanted to highlight. I wrote down some. This is stats among catchers. First in home runs, second in OPS, first in ribbies, first in walks, tied first in games played. He's appeared in every single game the Mariners have played this year. For a catcher, that's just absolutely unheard of.
Yes.
And then he's also tied for first among catchers in stolen bases with 5.
Wow.
I mean, 5 stolen bases from Cal Raleigh, and we're through mid-May. Absolutely incredible. 7th in all of Major League Baseball in wins above replacement. The things that he is doing from the catcher position is nobody else in the league is doing it right now. Curtis, what have you seen from Cal Raleigh and his importance to this team in this run right now?
Well, I think the franchise record for steals from a catcher is 7 in a season by
Wow.
Dan Wilson, and he's coming for it real
Wow.
quick.
Look out,
So
Dan.
at least I think that's what I saw the stat was on Twitter once upon a time. We'll have to double check that one. But no, as D-Jack was saying, like, he's lapping the field now as the best catcher in baseball. Right up there with every hitter in the league for most homers in the league with Shohei and Aaron Judge and Kyle Schwarber and that lot right now. He's been every bit as good as you expected him to be. He comes in, he signs a big old contract extension and doesn't let off the gas in the slightest, and even shifts into another gear and takes it up another level. So he's been exceptional for them. And as you mentioned, when Jorge Polanco slowed down a little bit, Julio's starting to rise and take some of that offensive need for them. Cal's been there most of the season. They're not so reliant on the home run ball this year, where they can score runs in some other ways. You know, you still have Rowdy, who's pretty much a home run or bust kind of option, but they're able to scrap together runs in other ways a little bit more often than they have in the past, so that the offense doesn't completely just face plant when they're not getting the long ball.
And let me just give, real quick, Ethan, I'm sorry, let me just give props to the Mariners as an organization for signing Cal Raleigh. And what I think is a team-friendly deal. As a matter of fact, it's a team-friendly steal. I mean, the numbers that they gave to the guy, we understand it's significant money, but to be able to lock him up for like the next 5 or 6 years, a masterful move by the Mariners organization, and they don't get enough credit for that.
Well, and I know one of the last times I was in here, I said the one possible way you can give a nod to the Mariners if they're not spending money on outside free agents would be if they then turn around and take that money and use it to keep their own guys,
Yes.
right? Like if they're able to keep Logan Gilbert, George Kirby on secondary contracts here and keep them a part of it, and the investment goes back into at least those players, then you could at least circle back and say, okay, I kind of get why you weren't chasing the outside guys. You may have still wanted it and I think it still would have absolutely made sense for them to chase the window of it right now. But if they do that, then you could say, okay, I get why you weren't sinking the money into that at the time. I understand where it's coming from. And Cal's one of those guys that they were able to do that with to keep him here.
Well, and if you want to re-sign a Logan Gilbert, a George Kirby, it starts with Cal Raleigh. You know, if Cal Raleigh leaves, maybe Logan has such a close relationship with him that maybe he follows him and that disincentivizes him to re-sign with the Mariners. I mean, he's mentioned he wants, his tenure, him and Cal here with the Mariners, to be like what Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina had. So, yeah, I completely agree. Re-signing Cal Raleigh is, an incredible first step in retaining all of the talent that you've drafted and developed. Cal Raleigh this season, he could wind up hitting 40, 45 home runs. That's what he's on pace for right now.
And you have to give Cal the credit for wanting to be here, too.
Yes.
Go back to when he changed his agency this offseason because he wanted to get the deal done and knew that I think his relationship with Scott Boras was going to make that a little bit tougher to get across the finish line. So all those things played towards getting things done and accomplished and keeping him here in town.
I want to touch on, we mentioned Julio Rodriguez. He has been, it's sort of night and day when the calendar flipped to May. I think he started with 6 or 7 games without a strikeout to start the month of May, which, for Julio Rodriguez, and we know his game, all the power and speed and excitement that he brings, he strikes out. It's in his game. His strikeout rate is way down. I think it was up at 25% the last 3 years, down to 20% now this year, which is above league average. It's better than league average. Only 8 strikeouts in May in 16 games. He's hitting 288. He's on a 7-game hitting streak right now. Only 3 games in the month where he doesn't have a hit. Curtis, what are you seeing from Julio? And are these signs to where is he back to the player that we know that he can be?
Yeah, I think so because the thing is, even before the hits started to drop, like the hard hit rate was there.
Yes.
It was starting to come along, and he was getting some of the bad luck on the batted balls in play. And now that's started to come through, and the balls are starting to land, go over the fence, all of those sorts of things, and the numbers across the board are starting to tick up with that. So, I think this progression's been coming a little bit longer than the traditional numbers are catching up to now because the balls are actually landing. He's been pretty competitive at the plate for a while now. The walk rate increasing, the strikeout rate coming down, all of those things are real positives for Julio's game.
Now, I'm a little harder on Julio. I still expect more. I'm looking for that superstar. And I understand the numbers are up, but numbers can lie because I'm looking at the timing of his hits. Now, last night, on Monday night, he hit a grand slam that pretty much won the game. And those are the kind of hits that I want to see from Julio. I want impact bats, not just numbers, not just hitting the ball here or there. I want impact bats like a Cal Raleigh, where we consider him more clutch than anybody on the team. That's the kind of hits. Those are the kind of impact plays that I want from Julio. Stealing a home run like he did last week. I want to see more of those plays. I expect more from Julio Rodriguez. I want him to be that superstar that we know he can be. So I'm still expecting a little bit more.
Well, and we know at some point, each of the last 3 years, Julio has gotten on a just absolutely torrid hot streak. We know that's coming. It has not come yet. So if he can tread water a little bit and, just raise the floor a little bit, and then that hot streak comes, we're talking MVP type potential for Julio Rodriguez. I feel like, Dan Wilson comes in, a big thing that he's preached is shorten it up with 2 strikes a little bit, being better with 2 strikes, cut down on those strikeouts, putting the ball in play. Julio Rodriguez, I noticed, I was at the games that Blue Jays series, they did get swept, but, with 2 strikes, that stretch of 7 games to start the month where he didn't strike out, or 6 games, I believe. 2 strikes. He had like 3 hits with 2 strikes that one game that I was there.
Yes.
With 2 strikes, it seems like he's being a lot better. He's not swinging for the fences with 2 strikes. What have you
He's
seen,
also
Chris?
not chasing the pitches out of the zone.
Right.
Yes,
and near
that's
the
the
same
big
level as he did a season ago too. So everything is better for Julio across the board. And I'm going to spring a little question on D-Jack here. Because we grew up when batting average was a bigger thing, right?
Yes.
How many players do you think in baseball last year had a 300 batting average across all of baseball?
All of baseball, I would say 5 or 6.
It was 7, yeah.
Okay.
And that's, back in 2001, the Mariners team you want to talk about, I think it was over 50 that season across the entire league. Like, hitting for average is not what it used to be. Pitching is better. It's a harder sport to do it in. So the numbers have to come with, as you mentioned, like the impact hits have to be there. You have to come through. That's why I think the big hit is, statistically, that's why analytics have pushed to try to get the big hit more and all of that. But you're not going to have that unless you're Aaron Judge, who's an absolute monster.
Anomaly.
The fact that he's doing that with pitching, doing what it is now, it's absurd how good he is.
He could hit 400 this season.
It would probably be the best season ever. And you talk recency bias and all that, but given the strength of pitching in baseball, the number of guys throw 95 plus with the movement they have now, it's ridiculous that that's possible. nowadays.
Well, and to go back to
Anyway.
Brian Wu and how ridiculous he made Aaron Judge look during that Yankee series in that game that he saved
Yeah.
as well.
So
Now,
just a
let
quick
me
aside
interject
there.
about the batting average, and I understand growing up, 300 was kind of the number for an all-star or superstar. All right, I'm only asking for 250, Curtis. That's all I'm asking
Well,
for.
he was 270 last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
now,
And the year before that
and
as well.
He's an all-star player. But if you're hovering around 200, if you're close to that, I have a problem with that, regardless of the analytics, regardless of the new age way of scoring a game. I have a problem if you're hovering around 200. You need to get that bat up to 250, and that was my criticism of Cal Raleigh. He's answered the bell and showed the power. He's also showing the batting average.
And he's walking more, too.
And he's showing the patience. And that was one thing I would give Julio. He's showing the patience at the plate. So that tells you the coaching is getting through. You're talking about an all-star player for sure, and he's very coachable because you can see his approach is different. I like what I see from Julio, but I want him to be in that superstar stratosphere that we always talked about of him being, and he's not there yet.
Yeah, I think a lot more growth for Julio to do, but we're seeing positive trends, and I think big picture, the biggest thing from this, just the last 4 games, the sample size. D-Jack, you mentioned the resilience, coming back, losing 5 of 6, and then winning 4 straight against a really good team in the Padres, and then you great start against the White Sox. Hopefully you can sweep them because they're at the bottom of the barrel in the big leagues. As far as the big question when they lost that 5 of 6 was, okay, did the bubble pop? Is this offense actually sustainable? You see the pitching staff pick up the offense a little bit, and the offense is doing its job throughout the 4 games, five runs per game in those 4 games. That's going to get it done, no matter how injured the pitching staff is going to be.
Right, and let's talk about that pitching staff because we have 2 unsung heroes that I forgot to mention, Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans. 2 pitchers that came up and filled that void from the Logan Gilbert and also George Kirby. They have been great. I mean, as far as what you can expect from pitchers coming from AAA and coming to fill in. Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock deserves a lot of credit. I'm going to give my props here on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
Good job.
And yeah, Curtis, you mentioned them as well. They've been absolutely great in filling in for those 2 guys that have been injured. You look big picture. I feel like these last 4 games, Curtis, tell me if you agree, the offense has shown signs of it being more sustainable with Julio sort of starting to pick it up, still hitting the ball hard, not striking out as much, walking more. You're getting contributions from Cal as well. Randy's walking a lot. And then you also have a pitching staff that's picking up the offense when it needs to. Andres Munoz has nails at the back of the bullpen. And then you're welcoming back George Kirby, hopefully this week, and Logan Gilbert by the end of the month.
Matt Brash is back, too.
Matt Brash as well. So it seems like there are signs that this team, this performance, this lead at the top of the AL West is not just fugazi. It's not
smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the fact that they're where they are in the division and have had the start that they have the year, and George Kirby hasn't pitched a single inning for him. That Logan Gilbert's going to be on the shelf for a month plus. All of that is, we haven't even talked about Victor Robles being out of the lineup since the first week of the season. Ryan Bliss, who they decided was their starting second baseman at the beginning of the year, is probably going to miss most, if not all, the rest of the season, and they've been able to work around it just fine in the interim. Some of the injuries may have even made them a better lineup because it's gotten Jorge Polanco out of the field defensively and gotten, better defensive options into the second base spot. So they may have, inadvertently, I don't want to say luck because of injuries, but found a more sustainable lineup through the decisions that they've had to make. And then, theoretically, when you get George Kirby back, and if Logan Gilbert's, elbow issue is not going to be a long-term thing, I think you still have to be a little curious about how that's going to play until it's evened out a little bit.
Anytime you're talking about that kind of injury, you're
exactly.
crossing your fingers.
Because so many of the times we've seen that end up in a Tommy John surgery. It ends up being like an indicator that something's going wrong with the UCL, and it seems like all things are green light go on Gilbert's standpoint now. But if you get both those guys back and they're able to do what they do, and you're already at this point in the lineup, I mean, we saw them blow a 10-game lead a year ago, so it's still possible, but I think the offense is far more sustainable with the group that they have now than what you saw a year ago. Because like I said, they were so reliant on the long ball, and they can score runs in other ways now that they weren't able to in the past. They're better. I think they're better at stealing bases. They're more willing to steal some bases, create some stuff in different ways, and all of that.
Well, and that is the exact reason why I'm still a little bit tentative, is that 10-game lead in June, and it was gone in record time. And so, I mean, literally anything can happen still this season. Are we past it's early, though? We're creeping up to
Yeah.
Memorial Day.
2 months in, like you're getting to the point of 2 months in, that's no longer relevant.
So this is the team that we should expect the rest of the season, is what you're saying.
I mean, structurally, yeah. Like this is who they are. I don't think they're all of a sudden going to become a team that can't pitch. That's going to have all of their top hitters, regress into a hole. Like they're going to have down streaks. They're going to have slumps. They're going to lose 5 out of 6 or get swept in series here and there. It's going to happen. But I think they're better positioned to work through those moments and bounce back. We've already seen it happen twice this year.
I wanted to ask you, is there any moves like in the waiting that the Mariners can make? I hear a lot of people talking about Donovan Solano and Tyler Locklear bringing him up. Any moves that you see?
I don't see the point in the Tyler Locklear move at this point because as it is right now, Solano is still, it's a platoon bat that's not going to play much. He's only going to face left-handed pitching, which is a small sample size, right? Luke Raley eventually, this one I didn't even mention, Luke Raley will eventually get back. He doesn't help out the platoon side, but he gives them another legitimate bat that they can put in the lineup at either first base or in the outfield and help smooth things out. I think that's a part of a situation you solve down the line. You don't make roster moves until you have to make them, right?
Okay.
I don't think trying to force, especially since Rowdy Tellez is hitting enough now to be, serviceable at first base. I don't see the need to try to force Tyler Locklear up into this lineup right now. You keep him on the back burner in case you need it down the line, and I think there's, moves to be made outside the organization to supplant the roster in the right ways, to go find that right-handed platoon bat that's going to take Solano's spot in the long term if he doesn't get things going. But there's nothing pressing them, I think, to do that right now because the role is so minimal as it is.
Yeah, we talked about this at the game. I am sort of a pro bringing Tyler Locklear up, but I see your point in he wouldn't be getting regular reps.
Yeah.
I saw Rowdy.
You want him to play.
Right, you want him to play, and Rowdy Tellez has actually been really good since his abysmal start.
Yes.
So showing a lot of power. I think he's hitting like 250 since mid-April. So
Yeah, he's like this year's Raley. Remember, Raley got off to a really bad start last year and then started to be a real contributor
Now,
for him.
if the Mariners are in the same place as they are, 2.5 up, let's say in July, June, do they make a move?
Absolutely.
Or will they be buyers?
Absolutely.
What do they need? Do
Well,
they need a bat? Like, what would they need?
if a bat's available, you can never go wrong with deepening your team and raising the floor. I think, replacing a Donovan Solano in his bench bat slot, Dan Wilson is going to his bench a lot. I mean, managers do that. So, and then I think there's always good relievers that are up for sale. You found Jimmy Garcia last year. That didn't work out. I think that was a little bit unlucky. But this bullpen can absolutely use some depth, and I think you can do that at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and I mean, to start, it was like first base is the hole they've got to fix.
Right.
Well, with Rowdy playing the way he is right now, it's not the pressing need at the moment. There's going to be another one that comes along. There's going to be an injury. There's going to be something that comes up. Victor Robles will be back. Luke Raley will be back. So that gives them a little bit more depth once you get down the line to weather some of those issues. But like I said, you don't make the roster moves so you have to. They have time until the deadline to figure out where the hole is that they need to plug on the roster, and then you can go out and try to fill that one hole strategically.
It's gonna be fun to watch. This team is really fun to watch right now. If you're mad about the offseason, whatever, and you have got a strike against the team, you're missing out on some fun baseball. So I would definitely recommend checking them out. Mariners' best record in baseball since April 9th on a 2.5 game lead in the division. Let's move on to some football. We haven't been able to talk about the schedule release on our show as if we didn't do a full hour and a half of TV on it the day that it came out.
Yes.
But the schedule releasing for the Seahawks, their over-under win total is like 7.5, 8.5, which I think is crazy low when you look at the schedule and the way that it played out. I personally don't think it could have played out any better for the Seahawks, aside from maybe finishing with 2 on the road. I think it's 5 of 7 they finished on the road as well.
Yeah, having to play 2 Thursday night games isn't awesome either. But like in general, there's very little I think you can complain about with the Seahawks schedule.
Yeah,
I think you complain about. I always find something to complain about. That's just me.
The Dante special.
Yes, the first half of the season you go home road, so you don't really have a home stand in there. So it's alternating between the road and the home almost the whole first half of the season. I think that'll be a problem because you want that home stand, that 2 or 3 games at home where you get a chance to establish yourself and extend a lead if you in lead in that division. So if I had to nitpick at the schedule, that the home road schedule as far as the first half of the season, I have a problem with.
I will say that's actually something that I like about the schedule, given the fact that you've got 6 East Coast road trips on the schedule. You knew that coming in.
Well,
None of them are back-to-back.
Well, the flip side of that is that if you're having that kind of a home stretch, you're going to have the flip side where you've got like maybe 3 on the road too.
Right,
Like
exactly.
So like I think it balances out fine.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it balances out. And then when you think about the travel and how grueling it can be for the Seahawks specifically, they travel more than any team that's not going internationally. That's the case every year with where we're located. But the 6 East Coast road trips, you've got at the Steelers, sandwiched by 2 road games. You've got at the Jags, sandwiched by 2 home games. Both of those. At the Commanders comes off the bye week, which the week 8 bye is perfect between 2 of your probably harder games in
Houston,
hosting Houston and going to the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. You go to the Titans. The game before that is at LA, so not a big road trip. And then after that, you've got a home game. You go at Atlanta, sandwiched between 2 home games. At Carolina, the game before that's a home game. So the East Coast travel, I feel like is mitigated very well with how it's laid out, and I think the balance that you don't like as much. So I think that plays to their benefit perfectly. And they're only playing one team coming off a bye. Hawk Blogger pointed this out. I think it's only the Texans that are coming off a bye.
And especially considering the fact that they've got more road games on their schedule this year anyway because of the split, right?
Right, exactly.
So,
That's
and you don't have that stack at any point. So I mean, truly, it's about as benign a schedule as they can face, like with the way that it's structured.
Well, why 7.5 games though? I mean, they only picked it.
Well, to play the devil's advocate of it, if the offensive line still stinks and Sam Bradford doesn't make the move over, like
Donald.
yes, I do that all the time with it. I did that last season too on Twitter. Sam Darnold.
He's about to bring him back from the grave.
Same quarterbacks. They just go in my anyway. If Sam Darnold, struggles behind, he struggled last year at the end of the year. We saw that with the sacks in Minnesota.
Yes, especially at the end of the season.
If their offensive line issues don't get solved, I'm giving them some latitude that they are. But like, if you want to make the argument, the case against it, that's the case. That Tyler and DK are gone. That the receivers are not good enough. With Jackson taking the lead on that group with them. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and they're not able to.
Cooper Kupp could get hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Has been an injury issue in the past years. If you want me to make the case as to why the number is that's what it would be like. But you also got to give them the latitude that the defense, I think, is going to be better.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to improve those areas. Well, the offensive line specifically. I don't think it's going to be the issue that it's been. And I think the Clint Kubiak scheme is going to help mitigate some of those protection issues, bolster the running game, all of those things to kind of support that whole effort. So, like I said, you want me to make the case for it, I can do it.
Right.
And that's why I think the number is where it is. But I also just trust this organization that the floor is always very high with this team. Like, I just don't think they're going to fall off a cliff at any point.
Let me piggyback off of you talking about Sam Darnold and the question.
Sam Bradford.
Don't do that to me, Curtis. All right, now, I guess the question is about Jalen Milroe. Will he see the field faster? And a matter of fact, let me ask you, Ethan, will Jalen Milroe see the field faster than we think?
I mean, see the field as in start the game or see the field and contribute
Now,
on
a lot of
offense?
people say he'll be a change of pace. They'll have a package
I think
for
they're
him.
absolutely going to do that.
Now, we understand that. I'm talking about actually becoming the starter quarterback.
I don't see it. I think Sam Darnold's going to come in here. They're not asking him to do what Geno did last year and throw the ball all over the yard. They want to run the ball. I think Darnold is going to come in here and do a good job. They're not going to ask him to do more things than he's capable of doing. I don't know what you think, Curtis.
I do not expect Jalen Milroe to factor in as a quarterback this year.
And I don't think they're going to force him in there if he's not ready. And right now, he went in the late third round. If he was ready, he would have gone higher than that in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, Russell Wilson did that thing too. It's all I have seen of Jalen Milroe in person is 3 days of rookie minicamp, which isn't real football. So take that with the grain of salt that it is. I think he's got to work on some stuff. Like, from just the first impression that I have there, I think he's not using his legs in that scenario either. So I'm not seeing that aspect of the game. I'm talking purely from a passer standpoint. I think there's things to develop and that he's not going to be ready for. But he has 4 months to get there at training camp to try to get there and see how that things kind of progress. I have not seen him in a real football situation, so I give them that latitude. First impression is he's not Russell. He's not going to take the run like Russell did in 2012 and be able to take a starting job. I don't see that. I think Sam Darnold is going to be the starting quarterback for this team, barring every possible circumstance.
Now, Seahawk legend Sean Alexander, the running back, he was on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams, and he seems to think that Jalen Milroe would see the field faster than we think, and he's saying that Jalen Milroe is a superstar, and you can't let a superstar sit too long because they forget how to be a superstar. What do you think about those?
He's a Bama. Sean Alexander's a Bama guy, right?
Yeah,
he's a big Bama guy.
yeah.
You know, he's gonna rock as a Bama guy, I guess.
Okay,
I don't know.
all right.
Yeah, I mean,
But I kind of agree because I love a playmaker. Now, he might not throw it good in practice and he don't have the accuracy, but, you know, when them lights on, you got to perform. And Jalen Milroe is a performer, and he's also a playmaker. So, I mean, I kind of agree with Sean Alexander. Hopefully we see Jalen Milroe sooner than not.
the thing is, the NFL level, like, if there's a hole, there's not a hole in the, in the passing windows. Like, the timing things are so much faster. The picture's not going to be clear for him like it was more so, particularly at Alabama. Like when you're playing Chattanooga on a week, or I know
losing to Vanderbilt.
man.
Well, that's the
losing
thing.
to
Like,
Vanderbilt.
they play those sorts of games. It's not going to be running free and clear like what the athletes at Alabama has against those sorts of teams and such. Like, obviously they have their big games at Alabama. I'm not saying otherwise, but like, everybody's good in the NFL. Like, it's going to be much tougher to do that at this level, and I think there's going to need some. I think this is a redshirt year for him to develop.
All right,
And
that's
I
fair.
think that would be the smart thing to do. And also, about the college game, hashes are wider. There's a lot more space, a lot more spread offense. So, and that's not the system that Clint Kubiak's going to be running. So, it'll be interesting to see if we see Jalen Milroe, if that ends up happening. And the packages that they're going to design for him, I think are going to be fascinating. It's going to be fun to watch. The Seahawks are only favored in 7 games this season, which I think, given their schedule, is pretty ridiculous.
I think that's why you see the 7.5 as the
Yeah,
number on the
exactly.
over-under,
It makes sense given how Vegas feels about him. They're only favored in 1 divisional game, and that's their home game against the Cardinals. And we've talked about it ad nauseum. The Seahawks have the longest shot to win the division. I just keep going back to. I find it ridiculous that people don't believe in this team compared to the Cardinals are going to be better. The Rams are taking a step back. The Niners, they're going to be better than a 6-win team last year. But they just paid Brock Purdy. They're hampered by that. They just made Fred Warner the highest paid middle linebacker in NFL history. So they lose a lot of depth on their roster with how much they're paying the top end guys. I have a really hard time believing, as a rational sports fan, that the Seahawks are only going to win 1 divisional game in 2025.
You sure you're rational?
I think so. I try to be. On this podcast, I'm the rational one.
All right, yeah, you're right, because I said 13 wins. So.
like I was saying, like, I believe these areas are going to be pretty solid too. But like, in those areas, like, if the offensive line does not improve and the Cooper Kupp gets hurt and Sam Darnold does not shine behind a shaky offensive line, I can tell you why that happened. San Francisco's going to be playing a bottom of the division, strength of schedule from finishing last, and now all of a sudden the teams that they're having to play in those interchangeable couple games in the schedule are going to be the worst team in the other divisions that in the schedule. So they're going to have a softer road compared to what Seattle or the Rams kind of face. There's ways for them to get to that point. There 100% is. But I think it's a little bit too pessimistic of a view for what the Seahawks are, given what you saw from them a year ago. They were, half a game away from being a playoff team, essentially, with what they had last year. Now they've changed a lot, but it's going to be year 2 of Mike McDonald. I think the defense is going to be consistent throughout the season and not take 6-7 weeks to kind of find their footing and get going. I can make you an argument in either direction there. I truly can.
Let me change the subject and let's talk about that first opponent, San Francisco 49ers. And my question to you, Curtis, is how? How can the 49ers pay all of these players? Let me go down the list. You have Trent Williams. You have Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, who all got top of their position money last season. Now you have Fred Warner, Brock Purdy, and George Kittle signed this year, and I might be even missing someone. How can they pay all of these players? I understand you lose some depth, but still, the fact that they paid all of these players and they're still alive and kicking, how? How do they do that?
Because they've had a quarterback who's a 7th rounder on a rookie contract for several years. We saw this with Russell, right? Like,
I don't remember having stars like this signed.
They had the highest paid offensive line in the NFL in the 2012-2013 when Russell was here.
Okay.
They went out and they signed Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett in free agency to bring those guys in here. They absolutely supplanted the roster with contracts like that, and were able to live out that time when you had Bobby and Russell and Richard and Earl on these rookie contracts for while when they weren't making money, because then when you had to pay them, you had to make your trims elsewhere, and the offensive line obviously took a big hit with that over the years. That's why, at least still for this year, like even though Brock Purdy got paid, that contract hit isn't going to hit until probably year 2.
Okay.
Like for when it starts to hit the salary cap and start to create some issues. So, and they moved Deebo Samuel this offseason. So there are places they've had to take trims. You know, I think Dre Greenlaw left too, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So like they've had to make their picks in some other areas and make those calls, but it is an aging roster that's getting older. And eventually, just like you saw with the Rams after their Super Bowl, it's going to all come due for them at some point. They're going to have to reset. The Rams have done a really nice job of coming out of that swoon where Aaron Donald decides to retire and lose some of the people that they had from that Super Bowl roster. Cooper Kupp, obviously, coming up here, and be able to kind of rebuild on the fly to where they're a very solid team again. San Francisco, I think, is still going to have to do this part of it first before they kind of come back out.
Right.
It's just a matter of if they can get that one more year out of this core before things, I think, start to fall apart on them a little bit.
Well, normally the Super Bowl window is with the quarterback on a rookie contract because you have flexibility in other positions and can surround an elite quarterback talent with the rest of the roster.
If you can do it, if you can do it, it's the easiest way to build a championship contender.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the 49ers bounce back from that 6-win season and then adding some more payroll at the top. They do have the easiest strength of schedule when you take all the opponents from last year's win-loss record, and they also, I think it's their last 6 games the regular season. They end with the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the only team of that has a winning record from last year. So they're going to be rolling towards the end of the season when you finish the game with the Niners. Hopefully it'd be really cool if that game was for the division. I think that would be a really fun one at Santa Clara. Really quick, Curtis, Kraken head coach are still looking for a head coach. Do you have any sort of updates? What are you hearing on that process?
I'm not going to act like I have any inside info on this particular aspect, but I will say what some others have reported. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet is kind of like the Adam Schefter of hockey in some regards. He's one of those national reporters. On their podcast this week, he mentioned that he believes their race comes down to Mitch Love, former Everett Silvertip, who's an assistant with the Washington Capitals, and Marco Sturm, who's the head coach of the Ontario Reign, the AHL affiliate of the LA Kings. He mentioned a couple other guys too, David Quinn, who was formerly the head coach of the San Jose Sharks and New York Rangers. Jeff Blashill, who's an assistant in Tampa, has been mentioned too. He's kind of more heavily linked with Chicago. Don Granato, who was head coach in Buffalo for several seasons where nobody can seem to find a way to win, has a pre-existing relationship with Jason Botterill, the Kraken's new general manager from back there. So those are some names that have been kind of linked to the job in some form or fashion. I can't tell you a ton about them other than doing some prep bio work on some of the guys. Like Mitch Love, D-Jack might get a kick out of this. Like he's a physical type of player from back in the day. He never played in the NHL, but he had like 214 penalty minutes and like 36 fights one year in the AHL.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So like that's the type of player he was. He played 3 seasons for the Silvertips. Coached I think 7 seasons there before moving on to coaching Saskatoon in the WHL. Eventually the Calgary Wranglers in the AHL, where he won back-to-back AHL Coach of the Year awards, and then got the assistant job in Washington, where they were second best record in all the NHL this season, best in the Eastern Conference, making it to the second round of the playoffs. Sturm played just shy of 1,000 games in the NHL, about 500 points or so in his career. Spent 7 years coaching with the 4 as an assistant with the LA Kings, last 3 as the head coach of the Ontario Reign. Those are the 2 candidates that seem to be top of the list from Elliott's reporting. So that's the ones that I've heard so far.
Let me ask you this, Curtis, and I asked you this earlier. How great of a job or how good of a job is the Seattle Kraken job as far as a national perspective? I mean, it seems that you don't have these type flight candidates banging down the door to be coach of the Kraken. Why not?
There's not a ton of like top flight candidates that were available in this year's market anyway. I think the number one that I think they were absolutely interested in was Rick Tocchet, and he goes back to Philadelphia where he played, I think, 11 seasons of his career. He played for the Flyers. So he gets to go back home in that regard to coach a team that's in a pretty similar spot in their kind of franchise building state as where the Kraken are, like from a trajectory standpoint. Yeah. The Kraken job I still think is going to be highly sought because it's still one of 32 and they're willing to pay for for a position like that. It's a very well run organization. Like the hockey on the ice has not come together yet, but the Kraken organization is very well put together, and so I think it will be interesting on that regard. Some of the more it kind of comes down to, do you want to have a retread coach option, guy who's done it before, and there are some of those guys available out there.
That's all of those guys. That's the NHL's history.
There's a lot of that happens. So Peter Laviolette got fired as the Rangers head coach this year. John Tortorella got fired as the Flyers head coach this year. They're not hiring John Tortorella. Gerard Gallant was fired last year as last year as the Rangers head coach. He's still out without a job. Jay Woodcroft got fired a year ago as the Edmonton head coach. He's still without a job. There's a number of these guys who have had previous head coaching experience in the NHL that are still going to be looking for opportunities. Some of them don't make as much sense as the others. I don't think Laviolette would make sense because there was some issues with Capo Caco in New York, and you want him to have his runway here, and you don't want there to be any issues with that, bringing him in here. Gerard Gallant, I think, would be an interesting one to at least talk to. Same with Jay Woodcroft. But whether those guys ultimately are high on the Kraken's radar or not, we'll have to see if that shakes out at all. But those are the two from Elliott's report, and that with Sturm and Mitch Love, that seem to be at the top of their list.
It's going to be interesting. The head coach search goes on. Hopefully, we see one named sooner rather than later. Thank you, Curtis, for that. Now it's time for our favorite segment on the show, I think.
All right.
DJ, you know what we got.
It's time for Top 5 Dead or Alive.
we got top 5 sports nicknames for you, Curtis. Me and DJ both made top 5 lists.
Yes.
We're going to have you listen to both of them, and then you're going to pick your favorite list between the two of them.
Okay. Now, this week we're doing sports nicknames, right?
Okay.
You want to go first? Or
you go.
You go
yeah,
first,
you went first last time. I'll go first this time.
All right.
Curtis, a couple of honorable mentions here that I really like. I couldn't exclude. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty good. The rhyming as well. I mean, just silky smooth. Love
and now
Hakeem.
It's just Dream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's just Dream.
Megatron, Calvin Johnson. I mean, it just fits his style of play perfectly. Just goes up and gets any ball, just dominates defenders, and he's built like freaking Megatron.
And the first person I heard call him that was actually Richard Sherman.
Really? Was he? Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, that's why Richard started calling himself Optimus Prime.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. My last honorable mention, William Perry, the Fridge.
Yes.
I mean, just an absolute tank of a player for the Bears. Let's get into the top 5.
Top 5, Dead or Alive.
Number 5, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October.
Okay.
When you have the name of the month where the postseason, the greatest postseason in all of sports, the most iconic, named after you as your nickname, you're doing something pretty good.
Yes.
Performance alone, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, gets in my number 5 spot. Number 4,
all right,
Irvin Magic Johnson.
Yes.
Just magic with the basketball. Need I say more?
No.
A pretty iconic nickname. Number 3, Jerome Bettis, the Bus. He was incredible when I was like 5, 6 years old, and I was learning from football from my dad, and I was like, I hear the announcers calling the Dad, why is he called? Oh, just watch him run.
Yes.
He's just barreling over dudes. Absolutely incredible.
Hold on, let me stop you right there on the Bus. We don't mention that name around here. Did you know he was from Detroit? That's kind of inside thing with Seattle. They know what I'm talking about.
Detroit. With the Bus,
they said that about 50,000 times during the Super Bowl in 2005.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
I was a little young. Yeah, I was a little young for that. But the Bus with the Steelers, the yellow, I rock with it.
Okay.
Number 2, prime time. Deion Sanders. Lights are brightest. Deion Sanders. He's coming. He's coming and he's performing. And number 1, the greatest sports nickname of all time. Cal Raleigh, the Big Dumper.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
yes.
having people on broadcast calls having to talk about Cal Raleigh's posterior, absolutely hilarious. They're talking about it on MLB Network, this nickname that's very tongue-in-cheek, and he has just embraced it. He loves it. And then, having Cal Raleigh hit a walk-off home run and telling opponents that you just got dumped on by the big dumper. I mean,
Right.
the jokes are just endless. There is no nickname that is better in sports, period, and they're right here in our backyard in Seattle. That's my top 5.
I love the big dumper, and the Mariners have taken it and ran with it because they give away dump trucks on one of those.
The
giveaway
marketing
nights.
is incredible. Yeah.
So the Mariners have always done well with that. See, and let me explain my list first, Curtis, before, and I love your list, Easton.
Thank you, Dante.
Definitely, great list. But I think a nickname is when they call you that naturally, where it's actually your name. That's when you know it's a great nickname. When they forget about your first name, your last name, you're that nickname, okay? So let me start with my honorable mention. And my honorable mention, one of them was Craig Ironhead Hayward. He used to be a running back with the Saints back in the day. Ironhead, he ran just like it sounds. He put his head down and he ran over everybody, okay? Let me go with another one, honorable mention. Vinny the Microwave Johnson. Now, I'm dating myself back to those bad boy Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas. You had Vinny Johnson coming
Isn't that
off
where
the
Jerome
bench.
Bettis was from?
Yes, he was from Detroit, right? So Vinny the Microwave Johnson, the name was so apropos. He came in, he was instant offense. Those are 2 of my honorable mention. All right, I got my list right here. All right, now let me go with number 5. Did you know his name was Eldrick? And I'm talking about Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was number 5 on my list. I mean, Eldrick Woods, did we know that was really his name? No, because it was Tiger always.
Look at what I'm wearing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know what his ding ding
All
was.
right, so number 5, I got him on my side already. All right, here we go. Number 4, he was an honorable mention for Ethan, but I mean, come on now. William the Refrigerator Perry. When he came in those Super Bowl in that magical season, I think it was '86 with the Chicago Bears, and they had him at the goal line either blocking or running it in. That's a great nickname. He fit that name, the Refrigerator Perry. All right, let's go with number 3, Flojo. Now, a lot of people might not know we went to track and field. Florence Griffith Joyner. Let me put some respect on her name. One of the greatest track and field athletes ever. Flojo. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Flojo, that was a great nickname. All right. Number 2 on my list, the Bambino, George Herman Babe Ruth. Did we know his name was George Herman?
Yes.
Did we know that?
But the Babe.
Babe Ruth.
He's in the record books as the Babe. Babe Ruth, yeah. That's
one of, if not the greatest baseball player ever. And number 1, you said it before, Irvin Magic Johnson. We just call him Magic. That's it. I mean, Irvin, you'd be hard-pressed to find that first name anywhere. I've never heard of an Irvin before that or after that. Magic Johnson is the number 1 nickname in sports history, the best nickname, top 5, dead or alive, Curtis. And I want to know what you think about the list. Who has the best list?
Who's got it, Curtis?
Okay, I think D-Jack has the better list.
Oh, no!
Yes.
It's because of the golf, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
Well,
should have thrown Tiger
it
in
wasn't
there.
because of the golf.
It was because of Tiger, yeah.
But there's a number of ones that I think you guys missed on that would be high on the list. Sweetness.
Oh, yeah,
for Walter
Sweetness is
Payton.
definitely. He was on my honorable mention.
The Rain Man for Sean Kemp.
That's a good one.
The glove.
The glove, yeah.
The glove,
Gary
yeah,
Payton
yeah.
would obviously be right up there too. I'm going to go off the board. A sport you guys didn't touch, the Intimidator for Dale Earnhardt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So there's a few that I'll throw out there.
Yes.
Do you have a
definitely.
favorite one out of that list?
Well, I grew up a NASCAR fan and Dale Earnhardt fan, so I will
I
say
didn't
the
know
Intimidator. I'll put it.
That's a
there.
pretty good one.
All right.
I thought the Big Dumper was going to win me that.
Yes.
I thought it was. I
love the
I
Big
still
Dumper.
think it's the greatest sports nickname of all time. That's okay. All right, we're 1-1 now, D-Jack. We're 1-1. That just flexing off me.
Yeah.
Curtis, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah,
We
no
appreciate
problem,
it. All right, we're back. D-Jack, the Storm opened up their season 1-1, sort of a mixed bag. A pair of very differing games, I would say.
Yes.
Game 1 was not how the Storm wanted to start the season, getting blown out by the Phoenix Mercury.
Just embarrassed.
Yeah, they lost by 20 points. Kalia Copper didn't even play. Natasha Mack didn't even play for the Mercury, 2 of their better players. But then they bounced back yesterday against Dallas with a dub against Paige Beckers. Only won that game by 8, though. Dallas made it interesting at the end. What were your overall thoughts of the Storm in their start to the season?
You know what? they say it about baseball a lot. It's early.
Yeah, yes.
That's the way I feel. I still like this team. I am concerned with the three-point shooting. I know we previewed the Storm last week, and that's something I didn't mention. But that's always been a concern, is the three-point shooting. We need to find it somewhere. But I still like this team. I think once they find their footing, you'll see one of the better teams in the WNBA.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about the offense specifically. I mean, you got to replace Jewel Lloyd, obviously, and Nneka has to take control. She, former WNBA MVP, all WNBA player. I think they're best when they're getting her touches in the paint, working that mid-range turnaround jumper, being aggressive down low. She was only 5 of 10 from the field in game 1. Was in a little bit of foul trouble, but I think she had 21 shot attempts in game 2. She needs to be taking a bulk of the shots. She's their best offensive player.
She had 23 and 18 against Dallas, so she must have heard you. And I'm sure that was the game plan, was to get her the ball, and maybe the foul trouble did kind of circumvent that. But she definitely needs to be the A-plus player every night. That's a person that I count on for the team. That's the team counts on. Also, we talked about my X factor, Ezi Magbegor.
Yes.
She's been anonymous so far in the first 2 seasons. The first 2 games. We need her to step up definitely and play as a dominant player that I know she can be. I know the talent is there, and I would just wonder what's missing.
Yeah, what do you think that is? Is that her not, taking as much, being as aggressive on the offensive end of the ball, hunting her shot? Do you think she's sitting back a little bit, letting Nneka and Skylar and Gabby Williams take the reins?
Yes, maybe? I think it's probably her personality. She's still a young player. And so when you have these dominant personalities like a Skylar Diggins and Nneka, and then you got Gabby Williams, those are all veterans. So maybe they took the reins of the team, but they need to make sure that they're involving Magbegor, because this team goes nowhere without her contributions.
Yeah, well, and so to break down the games a little bit more specifically, they shot atrocious from the field against Phoenix, didn't even hit the 60-point mark, and then against Dallas, absolutely lights out from 3. They were 9 of 11 in the first half, 9 of 15 for the game, 60% shooting from 3-point range against Dallas. You're not going to lose many games shooting that well from 3, and you're not going to have too many games shooting like that from 3.
Well, and you're not going to have Dallas too many more times.
Absolutely. Well, and that, thank you for reminding me that one of the points I wanted to bring up, you only beat Dallas by 8 shooting that well from 3. Dallas is supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, just had the number 1 overall pick in Paige Beckers.
Yes.
Other than Paige, they got Arika, but I mean, who else? Who do they have?
Right.
Not many people. And Arika was a non-factor in that game, 2 of 14 from the field. Paige had a very good game against the Storm. You only win by 8.
Yes.
And you let them climb back into the game multiple times throughout.
See, I kind of say that team on scholarship too, So that's a pro team with pros on it. Winning by 8. I don't, put much, credence into that.
On the road as well.
Yeah, on the road as well. So a win is a win is a win, and that's the way I look at it. And they wouldn't handle their business. Hopefully they can win the next game and get a winning streak going on and get off to a fast start, because I think they will need to get off to a fast start, because that team that blew them out in game 1, the Phoenix Mercury, that's one of the surprise teams of the NBA. The WNBA. When you look at Sabally, Kalia Copper, and Alyssa Thomas, that's a big 3 that can go against anybody in the league. Phoenix Mercury, I kind of overlooked them a little bit, but I see that team going somewhere.
Well, and talk about big 3s, and you were hoping that Ezi would step up as that third star. Gabby Williams.
Yes.
I mean, if she's scoring the basketball, she was shooting it really well last night against Dallas. I mean, could she be a difference maker for this team? A full season of Gabby Williams. She's good on. She's a star defensively.
Yes.
But if she can bring it on the offensive end of the court.
Yes, definitely. Gabby Williams is certified. If you watched the Olympics this past summer, she was one of the best players in the world. When France took America to the brink, a stacked American team. So Gabby Williams definitely is one of the better players in the league, especially going both ways, defensively and offensively. If she can get her 3-point shooting down, definitely she will move up into that big 3. But I still think you need Magbegor to be special in order for this team to go as far as they can.
Yeah, absolutely. And some things that are staying consistent from last year defensively, they have been really good at forcing turnovers. So it's good to see that. One last thing I wanted to bring up, Dominique Malonga, number 2 overall pick. She got 10 minutes and 1 bucket, I think, in game 1, and then she played less than 2 minutes against Dallas. Noel Quinn went to a 7-player rotation, really tightened things up. They played better, but against a lesser opponent in Dallas. Should we be surprised? I mean,
I don't know.
We got really excited talking last episode about
Yes.
her potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of lost sight of the fact that she is 19. She was the 3rd youngest player to ever appear in a WNBA game when she made her debut against the Mercury in Game 1. I was surprised when I looked at the box score from last night and saw she only played a minute and a half. And then I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, she's 19. Like, they're going to be patient with her.
And she's a rookie.
Yes.
And this is a veteran team. We talked to, Talissa Rhea in the last episode where, they're leaning into their veterans.
Yes.
But I still think you need to find minutes for Malonga so she can find her footing. Now, it might be a product of her just finishing a season over in Europe and coming over here, and they're trying to ease her back. She was late coming to training camp. So maybe they're trying to work her in, but I definitely want to see Malonga a little bit more so we can see what we have.
That is a really good point. I was surprised, though, that the playing time lessened after just one game.
Well, they had to get this Dallas game.
Yeah.
That 35-point loss in the home opener left a bad taste in the Storm's mouth, and rightfully so, because the Mercury came in and smacked us in the mouth. Now, so they know Dallas is a bottom feeder team, and you have to win that game, and that's why they played. You pointed it out. They played their veterans 35 minutes. If you go down the score sheet, 35 for Gabby, 35 for Ogumake, 35 for Skylar Diggins. They had to get this game, and they went and got it.
Yeah, they went and got it. 1-1 on the season. They come back home. They have their home opener on Friday against the Phoenix Mercury, so it's going to be fun to see that season progress. We're going to be talking about them all season long here on the sidelines. Let's go over to what's trending really quick around the world of sports. We're going to stay in the WNBA. I mentioned at the beginning the foul heard around the world. It seems like everybody is talking about this foul, Caitlin Clark's flagrant on Angel Reese. If you're watching on video, I'm going to show it right now. Angel Reese grabs the rebound after a shove of Aaliyah. Oh, no, that's not Aaliyah Boston. A shove down low. Natasha Howard. Caitlin Clark sort of retaliates here and gives Angel Reese sort of a hard shove. D-Jack, what do you make of this? A lot of people are talking about this play.
You know what? I agree with what Angel Reese said after the game. It was just a foul. The refs got it right. They called it a flagrant because of the little push that Caitlin gives her along with the hack. It happens in almost every basketball game. Make no mistake, the women's game is a physical game. These women are tough. Angel Reese jumps up and reacts, but I think once she, cooler heads prevailed, she realized it was just a foul. It was a hard foul, but just a foul.
I think it's getting a lot more publicity than it needs to be.
And that's the WNBA.
Anything that happens between Caitlin Clark and Caitlin Clark alone, but then you add in Angel Reese to the equation, is going to get a lot of publicity.
Yes.
It's just a hard foul. Like, I don't think we need to be making it more than it is. And it was upgraded to a flagrant, which I didn't realize until I was looking at it today. So,
and they even gave Aaliyah Boston a technical for coming in, being kind of the peacemaker, which baffles me. But Caitlin Clark, being a good teammate, said, hey, Boston, I got you. So the $200 fine, give it to Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. So, I thought that was really, a lot of people are talking about it. And I feel like it's when this conversation gets taken a little bit too far to where, it makes it a little bit uncomfortable. I don't think, it's a basketball play. I don't think we need to be talking about off the court stuff, racial undertones, things like that.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
It's just basketball. We see this in every WNBA game. This is a physical game. And let's keep it on the court, ladies. This rivalry that the WNBA, I would say, manufactured, goes all the way back to the NCAAs when Angel Reese, got in the face of Caitlin Clark and gave the I can't feel my face sign to go right back at Clark in winning the national championship. So this goes way back, but I just don't think it's an even fight. I don't think it's a fair fight. Caitlin Clark is a superstar, a megastar, the golden goose of the WNBA. Angel Reese is a solid player, even an all-star player, but she's not on the level. It's levels to this. We need to find a real rival for Caitlin Clark, in my opinion, and the candidate would be Paige Beckers.
Yep.
That
Absolutely.
would be a better rivalry, a more even fight, if you ask me, because Paige Beckers was Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
Before her injuries, it was all about Paige Beckers. I would like to see the WNBA lean into that more than the Angel Reese, who's a post player, and Caitlin Clark, who has the ball in her hands at all times. It's not a fair fight. So WNBA, we understand you want the looks, you got them, okay? We watching. But it's not a fair fight. Let's manufacture another rivalry. Preferably with Paige Beckers.
I think one thing's for sure, my take, it does not seem like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese like each other.
No, they don't.
I've got the video up again for those listening
Right.
on audio. But, I mean, she fouls her, shoves her to the ground. It's a little bit of a flop from Angel, I think, but Caitlin
Right.
does shove her. Caitlin lingers there and looks at her. You'll see it in the replay.
Yes.
And then Caitlin gets out of there, which I know you did not like.
Now, Caitlin, if you're going to hammer somebody and you're going to hack somebody, you cannot run away, okay? You cannot run away. Stand your ground. You won't have teammates come and help you anyway, which I wanted to talk about. I love the way Aaliyah Boston jumps in here and protects her player. Protect the asset. Again, protect the asset. Boston gets it. It's something I never seen last season. I mean, you talking about Kennedy Carter of the Chicago Sky body checks Caitlin Clark last year. I don't think she even had a teammate help her up. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from the teammates this year and making sure they protect the asset in Caitlin Clark. She's the golden goose of the WNBA. She's changing the game. They're watching this. Again, it's not a novelty. We wondered last year, okay, can she do it 2 years in a row? Yes. They're opening the upper bowl up there in Climate Pledge. They're changing the games to arenas to accommodate the crowds that Caitlin Clark brings in. The viewership is up. The dollars are up. Caitlin Clark is the golden goose of the WNBA, and protect the asset. Fever, please.
Foul heard around the world. It didn't really need to be. I don't know. I think people
love
are
it.
making
I love it. It's
a big
spicy.
thing out of
It's
this.
spicy. Yes.
It's spicy. And yeah, good for both the Caitlin and Angel for holding their thing. And then it's cool. You mentioned how Angel sort of diffused it after
Yes,
the game
she
a little
said
bit.
the refs got it right. At the end of the game,
So-
she had a chance to see the foul. She said the refs got it right. Just leave it on the court, ladies. Let's not make it personal. This is not a personal battle. Let's leave it on the court. I don't think they like the way the WNBA has pitted them against each other. But I would lean into it if I'm Angel Reese. I would lean into it if I'm Caitlin Clark, because that's what makes the league great.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, all those the Fever Sky games are going to be on national television.
Yes, all five
till
of
the
them,
end
yes.
of time. While those players are on those teams, fun to watch. I think it's entertaining. That's going to do it for us. Didn't get to the NBA playoffs, but go. Who do the Thunder play? The T-Wolves.
Timberwolves.
Go Timberwolves. Go Minnesota, man.
You
I love
said Thunder.
Ant.
It's the Zombie Sonics.
Yeah, there
we
you
don't
go.
mention that name around
Speaking of
these
nicknames.
parts.
Speaking of nicknames, yeah.
The best nickname in sports history, Zombie Sonics.
Zombie Sonics. You heard it here
Bring
first.
back our Sonics.
For Curtis Crabtree, D-Jack, Dante Jackson, I'm Ethan McReynolds. We'll see you next time on the Sidelines.
Let's go!
On the Sidelines is available wherever you get your podcast.